Hi, I'm Macy.
And I'm Missy.
We're best friends
and business partners. And each week, we're going to bring you a quote that inspires us, and we're going to talk about it.
Join us as we break down our favorite impactful messages for leadership and share how you can apply them to lead with confidence and purpose.
Get ready for a fun and authentic journey into leadership, life, and everything in between.
Well, hey, bestie.
Hey, bestie.
Today's episode is going to be a super fun one because there's a whole backstory to our guest, which is kind of wild. And once we introduce him, I'm going to share that backstory.
Yeah, I would agree. It's wild how things work out sometimes, isn't it?
It is.
So let's go ahead, Mayce. Let's introduce our guest for today and let him share about himself. And then you can share the story.
Okay, that sounds awesome. So today we have with us the CEO of a company called Afterburner, Christian Boo. And I don't want to booger it up, Christian. You pronounce your last name.
Boucousis, but
Christian Boo,
that's why it's Boo.
Yeah, that's why it's Boo with a super cool accent.
Yes, welcome, Boo. Welcome. We're so glad you're here. Go ahead and share with our listeners about you, Boo.
Well, that's a former fighter pilot's favorite thing to do, talk about themselves. So thank you so much for allowing me that opportunity. Look, I'm just in the world trying to help good people be great leaders. I think at the moment we're seeing a world full of suboptimal leadership, and it's, leaders are in service to themselves, not the people that they're meant to lead. And I feel blessed that my career trajectory started as a fighter pilot in the Australian Air Force. And through no fault of my own or completely outside of my control, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, which meant that I was kicked out after 11 years, which was a sad day. But as I say, sometimes the dreams you have when you're a kid shatter because they're in the way of the dreams you're truly meant to serve. And I moved into business. That was 21 years ago. And I've been in business for 20 years, 10 years as a founder. And then the Lord showed me the way. I had a very good friend that was doing a keynote for Australia's largest insurer, multi-billion-dollar entity. And he was talking about how to use fighter pilot thinking and working to help lead better and get things done more efficiently in this business. And I was sitting in the audience. It was the first Afterburner thing that I'd ever seen. As I went to that event, I thought, this is a bit cheesy. Some dude in a flight suit talking about fighter pilot stuff. I'm like, I was a fighter pilot and I was in business. I can't see the correlation here. But when I listened to the keynote, it was like this moment where every synapses in my brain connected. And I realized, and this is what's really important about being a great human and a great person, was everything I was doing in business operated at a subconscious level. And the subconscious level was the programming that I received as a fighter pilot. So without even knowing it, I was using the cognitive model of fighter pilots, the techniques that we have that propel you into constant growth to build a number of successful businesses. So in that moment, I would just kind of went, I need to be part of this. And I came to the US, I met the founder, Jim Murphy, and I decided, as the universe works in its mysterious ways, my friend had decided he wanted to go back in the Air Force. And he's like, do you want to take over this thing in Australia? And I'm like, I just built a hotel. I had a whole bunch of other business stuff. But, something deep inside me in my soul was like, you've got to keep journeying here. And the short story is that journey ended up with me buying the company in the US. And now I'm the owner and CEO of an organization that not only helps fighter pilots, that helps people grow using the techniques fighter pilots use, but it's also my life. It's what I have done, combined with what I've learned. And I love it because the results speak for themselves. People get phenomenal results. Life gets easier. The amount of impact we make becomes larger and more significant. So it's really just living true to my life's purpose at the moment. So I feel very blessed and grateful for the way that my life has unfolded.
So good. So good. Well, Macy, go ahead and share the story of how you and Boo met, and then we'll share the quote for today.
I think with
so
Missy's accent, it does end up Bo.
Yeah, exactly. She's got the Mississippi twang. So Bo is Boo. I've got two people with accents, and then here I am with like my Jersey girl.
You got your Jersey girl.
All right. So Boo was going to be on our podcast a while ago, and scheduling conflicts happened. And I show up at an event in Mexico with my husband. We're on this bus going to a cenote, which if you don't know what a cenote is, it's a cave in Mexico. Yes, I have pictures to prove it, or else you would probably not believe that I...
Yeah, we wouldn't believe it otherwise.
And guess who is sitting next to me? Boo happens to sit, of all the people in all the world and all the buses in Mexico, Boo is sitting next to me. And I was like, oh my God, we've got to get you on the pod. And so it was just crazy when you talk about God working in mysterious ways.
Yes.
Right? Like there were a lot of people at that event that we could have sat next to, but Boo, we were.
Yeah, that was a moment, wasn't it? That was was incredible.
It was really, really crazy. That was one of those.
We had a fun day.
Winks. We did. We had a great day.
Yeah.
We had a great day. All right. So the quote that we're going to talk about today is this: execution wins when clarity meets discipline under pressure. And that was actually said by Jim Murphy. We found that on Afterburner's website, which is where we came up with that. So we know this is going to be a great conversation. So let's talk about it. Boo, when you hear this, execution wins when clarity meets discipline under pressure, what comes to mind for you?
Let's keep it real big picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
What we are naturally as human beings is the opposite of who we need to be successful. When we look at the way a human being is programmed, it's to be very safe, secure, to not take risks, because the program that we run as humans has been sitting there for 100,000 plus years. The humans that take the risks are kind of programmed a little bit differently, and some people call that neurodivergent, and I am neurodivergent. I have a ADHD of the highest order. But what the Air Force does is it takes a raw human being, a young man or woman who really just have the dream of being a fighter pilot, so no skills whatsoever. And then through the same process, the same sausage machine for every single pilot, turns them into these individuals that win 99% of the time, that operate in the most complex environment on Earth in 3 dimensions at super high speeds, where you're just constantly overwhelmed. And it does that with relentless consistency. Now, when I bought Afterburner, we were a strategy to execution business, right? So we would come in, we'd help companies with their clarity, we'd work with them week on week to build the habits of success, which is just all fighter pilot stuff. But when I bought the company, because I had been doing that for 7 years, what I realized was, execution is becoming a computer robot machine thing. It's becoming less of a human thing. And B, it doesn't matter whether you've got 10 people that are awesome, highly productive, if they serve a leader that doesn't know what they're doing, if they serve a leader that doesn't actually know how to lead. And what we would consistently see, and this is the 30th anniversary of Afterburner, is wonderful execution, commitment, and focus being derailed by leaders that didn't know what they were doing. So we then went and, we then went and developed a leadership program, which is called Flawless Leadership. And a flawless leader is a leader that accepts perfection's not attainable, but you're committed to design destinations, arrive there, commit 100% to what you can control, and adapt intelligently to what you can't. Like, it's a big phrase, but what we've uncovered during our research into being this flawless leader is 86% of leaders suffer from undiagnosed perfectionism. And when we talk about, and Mayce and Missy, you would be in this category, because people who suffer from undiagnosed perfectionism do things like run podcasts, do extras, want to be successful, enjoy success. But when we talk about this whole idea of perfectionism, For many of us, we think it's the OCD person that wants everything just so, wants to do everything their way. But undiagnosed perfectionism is different. It's like an internal narrative. It's an internal story that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
And the story tells us that you need to achieve impossible standards. If you don't achieve them, you're a loser and a failure. And if you just control more, you'll be more successful and be more perfect. The problem with that is, though, is the more you control, the more overwhelmed you become. And then when you become more overwhelmed, you burn out. And what happens is I call it the perfection death spiral, in that this constant need to overperform and to achieve standards that no human on earth can achieve is why 56% of leaders say that they're burned out today. So the flawless leader is breaking that spiral and saying, hey, stop telling yourself these negative stories. Stop trying to do too much per day. Slow down. Because what you find is the more controlling you are as a product of trying to be perfect, the busier you are. And I don't need to tell you guys, is if you're on the phone in your car and you're busy and you're having like a really deep conversation, you're not noticing that you're driving the car. You just arrive at the destination.
You just end up somewhere.
You just end up somewhere, right?
Yeah.
That's what life does too. If you're busy and you're not conscious of where you're going, you just end up somewhere. And somewhere is probably not where you actually want to be. Or you have an accident along the way. So it's this practice. When we say that flawless leaders design destinations, what we're really saying is, and this is self-leadership too, right? Like if you want to take yourself somewhere, you have to think like a leader. That's because that's what leading is, going somewhere that doesn't exist. That we have to be very, I guess in leadership and personal development speak, they call it intentionality.
Yes, it's one of our favorite words.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you something else to work with moving forward. Is intention is the story, it's the destination that defines the arrival. That's the difference, because when we're intentional, we intend to do a lot of good things, and the path, the road to hell is full of good intentions.
Yes, it is.
We know that line well, Boo.
Yeah, because attention isn't doing something. It's a mental exercise, not a physical one. So we talk about, the number one job of a flawless leader is to design destinations. And think of it this way. So we went down to Tulum, Mayce, and when we got on the aeroplane, the captain gets on the PA and says, "Welcome aboard, ladies and gentlemen." What the captain doesn't say is our goal is to get to Tulum today. Can you imagine if they said that?
That's what we hope happens, right? No, it better happen. It better happen.
Or the captain says our intention is to get to Tulum today. No, thank you. I want to arrive. And that's why they use the word destination, because a destination is a fixed point in time and a clearly defined and visible thing where we arrive. So that's the trick. Like that, if you really want to fulfill your potential, it's the ability to translate an intention into a destination. Yeah. And then stay focused on the mission until you arrive.
Yeah, that's good. One of the things that I wanted to add when you were talking about this undiagnosed perfectionism, I would say I have self-diagnosed perfectionism, right? Like I've diagnosed myself with perfectionism.
Well, that's the 14%. That's everyone else, right?
Yeah, although I would say also that I am a recovering perfectionist. So I have learned, and Missy and I were just having this conversation, that I don't need all the answers. I just need the very next step. And that, to me, I'm in recovery, because previous to a conversation, maybe a year ago, maybe more, I would have said, I can't move forward. I'm paralyzed from wanting it to be so perfect.
Yes. You've made great strides, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
So, Boo, let me ask you this, because obviously you made a big career shift, right? You've gone from the cockpit to the boardroom. And so what's one leadership lesson that translates perfectly between both worlds?
Curiosity. Curiosity is the key. And for me, and I think this is serving me really well in the era of AI, is I'm the dumbest person on the computer compared to AI. To paraphrase Richard Branson, you want to be the least intelligent person in the room when you're running a business.
Yes.
And that sets you up with a really nice mental model, which is to be always asking questions. I think the challenge with perfectionism is the perfectionist leader thinks they need to know everything. They think they need to have all the answers. And anything that falls short of that means they're failing as a leader, which means they're constantly failing. And they're paralyzed and procrastinating because they just don't know what to do. So instead of being intentional about the next step, they're reacting to whatever the fire is in front of them right now. And this doesn't happen on purpose. No one's doing this and making decisions.
Sure.
This is just the default human program, and we're designed to be reactive, right?
Yeah.
So as a fighter pilot, the key skill that we're trained in is to ask ourselves, why didn't I achieve what I set out to achieve today? Why did I make that little mistake? And that's an expectation that it's going to happen because it's so complicated, it's so fast that you're always doing something wrong. But what's really cool about the fighter pilot world is we don't even have words like wrong, mistake, error, failure. We don't use those words. I've never heard anyone mention it. We do good things and then we do other things, and the other things that we do are not the good things. But just think about that. Or even in a relationship, as in your family, or having an argument, or with your kids, it's like you're wrong, you're right. It's like no. Something other than good is happening right now, and let's get curious as to what that is.
Yeah. So, what would you say in business? Obviously, business is chaotic. So what do you think most leaders get wrong, right? In chaos? Is it the language that they use? Is it a behavior that they have? Like when things are kind of swirling out of control in fighter pilot world, you have to react, and I would think oftentimes be proactive. But in the business world, what do leaders get wrong in the chaos?
In the down spiral.
Yeah, well, first of all, they're creating the chaos that they're reacting to. That's the key. The world is not that chaotic. It is. Most companies do the same thing every single day, and if they change a product or a service, it's a 6 to 12 month process to do that. I mean, I think the organization that is the fastest at adapting to a market is Lego. They can reconfigure their plastic production line to meet market demand, and even that's 2 weeks. So the chaos, I mean, if you think about running through a forest and and one person says, I've got to get to the other end of the forest, and the other person says, I've got to get to that cabin at the end of the forest. Now, if there's a cabin, you know where you're going, so you can run through the forest in the general direction. If you need to just get to the edge of the forest, it's chaos because you're just running around. You don't know where the edge of the forest is. The forest has 360 degrees of edge. There's no such thing as an infinite forest. So leaders are reacting in chaotic because they don't have the context of, is this important? Is this piece of information and what's happening now really important? And one of the things I learned about through my journey with ADHD, and the great thing about ADHD is when you know you have it, you research it. Most people have a form of it, because all ADHD is it's a fight between the busy part of the brain and the thoughtful part of the brain. And there's a switch there called the salience network, right? So what happens is this salience network, which is step back and think, or lean forward and execute. In the digital world, that's so far, it's just stuck in execute. So we're not thinking. So everything that happens, we perceive as important because it's happened. And rather than just saying, well, it just is, something has happened, but is it important or not? Well, it's not taking me to my destination, so it mustn't be important. So you look at an organization, and we work with organizations, hundreds of thousands of people. Most of those people are just bouncing off the walls because they don't know where they're going. They get feedback without any context whatsoever. It's just criticism.
Yes.
And we don't all pull in the same direction. And that's the leader's job is to create the destination and then guide everyone there. Not stand in front and have everyone follow, but to be the guide and to let everyone learn and grow along the way.
Yeah.
So good. So, how does a leader create clarity for everyone when everything around maybe the leader and the team, it all just feels unclear?
Well, just just have a destination. It doesn't even need to be the right one. Like that's what's important. So this is the perfectionist leader sets a destination, let's use plain language, sets a goal, right? They set a goal. Now, the way a human being works is we have a cognitive bias that says you've set a goal, good job, you've achieved it. Like it ought just the mere fact we set a goal, we feel a sense of achievement. Sure. And that's not a good thing because it's nothing.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's understanding that in business, which is different from an airliner, is that maybe the destination is just a guess. And that's what we're going to start with. We're going to guess something. And then through the process of reflection and curiosity, we're going to firm that up. The problem in most businesses is we say, okay, here's the quarterly objective. And then we spend 90 days. And then on day 91, we ask ourselves, did we get there? One of the philosophies we have as a fighter pilot, and I apply this in my life because it's really great for ADHD, plus it's good for everyone else that's just as distracted, is I call it missionization. So every day is a mission, right? And every mission needs an objective. And every mission needs to be successful, right? Or 99% successful. So you wake up in the morning, instead of writing a to-do list, you write a to-achieve list. Here's the 3 things I want to achieve today. Once you know what you want to achieve, then you'll work out your to-do list. Because again, a to-do list that's going in the wrong direction is just a waste of effort. As a leader, you're co-creating that. So instead of doing it every day as a team, on a Monday morning, you write, team, here's the 3 things we need to achieve today. Let the team figure out the 3 things they need to achieve every day. Monday, we set the weekly objective. Wednesday, we reflect on it. And I have a very intentional framework for reflection. It's called ORCA, like the killer whale. And ORCA is a mnemonic for objective, result, cause, action. So on Monday, we set an objective for the team. On Wednesday, we start ORCA. What was the objective? And R is what is the reality? Like, where are we? And most of the time, we're not there yet, which is perfect. That creates a gap. That expectation gap for people that aren't fighter pilots is fraught with emotion. Yes. That we don't like that. And we blame and we criticize and we suffer from fraudulent feelings about ourselves and we lose confidence because we're playing in a world that doesn't really exist because we haven't arrived at the future yet. So we're naturally operating in ambiguity. So the C in AUKUS is for curiosity. So let's get curious. Let's just say, well, this is what we want by Friday. This is where we are. Are we kind of on track or are we way off track? What am I doing? And I'll give you the answer to this when we work with big companies. Most of the time is I don't know my objective. I'm always distracted and everything is important. Yeah. It's pretty much the standard.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then A in AUKUS is action. And when people use words like change your behavior, develop habits, that's what actions are. But the thing about ORCA is it's unique in that it connects tomorrow to today, reflects on yesterday, and then gives you something to do again tomorrow. Because that's the hardest part of leadership. The hardest part of leadership is all the tomorrow stuff.
Right.
Tomorrow doesn't exist.
Yeah. You obviously been trained because of your background in fighter pilot. You've been trained to adjust in high pressure moments. But let's just say Bob, the CEO, or Bob, the leader, or Bob, the manager, they haven't been trained that way, right? You've been specifically trained that way. So you have that mentality. So what do you think separates leaders who could perform in those high pressure moments from those that freeze when it's a high pressure moment? Because they may not have had that training. And mostly I would suggest that they probably haven't.
Not, yes.
Well, I mean, that's the perfect opportunity to plug Afterburner. That's what we do.
So then that's what it is you're coming in and you're the one that now, at least if they have the awareness, then they could reach out to you and say, help, this is what we need training in.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. It's if you don't, I call it the 3 M's, mastery of the 3 M's, mindset, method, and moments. Normally most leadership lives in the mindset world. It's all about thinking. It misses the method world, which is a structured way to do things. Think of it as a manufacturing process for your thoughts and actions. That doesn't really exist in most organizations. And everyone avoids it because it sounds boring, which is why we only have a 4-step process, because it's easy to remember.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, I want to just dive into that word pressure for a minute.
Sure.
Because as the world has softened, like if we look at World War II, after that, we were very community minded. Everyone was all about the greater good. And as happens generation to generation, now we're quite self-absorbed and self-focused. That's kind of a normal 4th generation progression from a major event. In that world, we don't like pressure. We don't like negativity. We don't like anything bad. But the problem is there's a lot of bad stuff that isn't really bad. We just think it's bad. Like, hey, someone ate my yogurt out of the fridge. That's bad. And it's like, well, it's not really. It's just yogurt. This fight, flight, or freeze response is very tight now. Like, we get frustrated about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I kind of have this saying is that when you've got nothing to worry about, you worry about everything. So when we talk about pressure is good. Pressure's good. But we confuse pressure with stress. And one of the great things about how this whole idea of missionization is it rides something that psychologists call the peak stress curve. And when you look at the peak stress curve, it's this curve basically, and on one side is complacency, procrastination, and laziness. And on the other side is high stress, anxiety. Right in the middle, though, is what you call the peak performance part of the graph. And it's when you're feeling pressure to perform, and it gets all of your senses fired up. Like we're designed to be there. That's how you unlock the full potential of a person, is to put them in a pressure situation, not a stressful situation. So for a lot of leaders, they basically skip the curve. They go straight from complacency to panic, straight from procrastination to stress and anxiety. Even just understanding that when you feel the pressure, it's to say, oh, this is good. This is good. But what I need now is like an hour to an hour and a half to just take this wave and crush the work. And there's this great study that was done by McKinsey many years ago. And I'm going to simplify the study for you. But basically it said leaders that can do that are 800% more effective than other leaders in complex organizations.
Wait, say that again. Say it again.
So leaders who understand how to optimize that performance are 800% more effective than the average leader in an organization.
Wow.
I mean, that number is huge.
It's huge.
It really is. So let me ask you this, Boo. Let's bring it down, and I want to ask you about yourself personally. Like, how do you train yourself personally? What advice could you give those of us who need to train ourselves personally? How do we stay calm and avoid that stress when the stakes are really high?
Yeah, there's a great saying in the Air Force. There's 2 sayings. One is wiggle your toes. So when you're flying an airplane, and every mission you do, they is a little bit more complex than the one before. So you've got to go from up, down, left, right to being a competent fighter pilot. It's about 400 missions. So you're often, and along the way there's some missions that you kind of nail, and there's others that you just struggle with, right? So when you struggle with performance with something and you start to feel the stress kick in, the airplane, it goes from that perfection to control. So the perfection death spiral is perfection, manifesting as control, and delivering overwhelm. So here you are, you want to fly the mission, you want to do the perfect mission to get the high score, because you get the high score, you get to be a fighter pilot.
Right.
All of a sudden, things are starting to unravel for you. You're a little bit behind the curve, you might just be having a bad day, and you start gripping the controls harder. You just feel, if I just grip it harder and I'll have more control, I'll start hitting the numbers. The opposite happens. The aircraft starts fucking around. The numbers are much harder to hit. And you enter what we call a pilot-induced oscillation. And the same happens in life. You just enter into this chaotic oscillation that you're creating because you're a control freak.
Yes.
Just in general. So
Boo, you are talking directly to the two of us. I know we have listeners all over, but I feel like this is a lesson strictly.
I know. We're like both like leaned in.
I know we are. Oh, keep going. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
And then the instructors, because their job is not to punish you and let you fail, their job is to help you. They'll just say, hey, Boo, wiggle your toes. And when you wiggle your toes, you instantly relax. Right? Yeah. But you also know when they say that, I'm holding on too tight here. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing they say is, where are you trying to go? Not what are you trying to do? Where are you trying to go?
That is
changing the focus.
That is a tweetable, if we only tweeted. But that's really good, because I think you're right. I think so many people get stuck in the, what am I trying to do? But in this moment that you're talking about, it doesn't matter what you're trying to do. It has to be focused on where do you want to go? Because if you want to go somewhere, what you're doing right now is not working. I love that.
Yes. Yeah. So good. I feel like we need to get t-shirts that say wiggle your toes for you and me, Macy, to remind ourselves. Well, I just have to say there is no doubt this has been an amazing podcast. And I think it's a great segue to our big takeaway for the week. And so listeners, if you only take one thing from this week's episode, let it be this: clarity is the leader's responsibility. If your team is confused, it's not a team problem, it's a leadership problem. Clear leaders create focused teams, and focused teams execute.
Yeah, that's right. The leaders who win are the ones who stay consistent when it's hard. They wiggle their toes, not when it's convenient. Well, Boo, thank you so much for being with us today. If our listeners want to get in touch or stay in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
The easiest way is just to type my last name into Google or your AI search engine, Boucousis, and I'm the only one out there.
Okay, we're going to put it in the show notes. We'll say search up Boucousis.
Absolutely.
And if you just want to do something really impactful, circuit breaker to really charge your leaders and your teams, afterburner.com. It's our 30th anniversary. We'd love you to come in, check us out. Say hi. We're here to serve.
Fantastic.
I love that.
All right. So we have a question for you, Boo. We ask all of our guests this question. What is your favorite leadership quote?
Oh, there's a few. I think I love Nelson's Mandela's. I don't win or lose. I just win or learn. And I think if you come to life and diffuse the emotion that is generally associated with failure and view it all as a learning opportunity, then it makes life a lot more comfortable. Yeah. And you come from a place of thoughtfulness, not emotional reactive energy.
So good. Yeah, so good. Thank you. And listeners, do you have a favorite leadership quote? Send it our way and we may spotlight it on a future episode. Right, Bestie?
Yes, we'll be back next week with another quote and more leadership insights. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to talk about it. Bye,
Thanks so much, Boo.
Bye,
Bestie.
Thank you so much.
We want to thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, please show us some love by clicking the 3 dots to download the podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating on your podcast app and talk about it with other leaders to help them find the show from any of the major podcast apps. We'd love for you to follow us on social media too. Mpactful with an M _ messages on Instagram and Mpactful Messages on LinkedIn.